Chapter 12, The Way of Love. True love. A love that always lasts. An everlasting love. So, in the last chapter, the universal form is seen in the eyes of Arjuna. He sees all the glories, all of the gods, everything to be destroyed. He sees Krishna as all-pervading time, death, destruction, the Trinity, creation, preservation. He sees him as never-ending love as well. But his mind was turmoiled at seeing even the darkness and destruction, good, evil, everything to be conceived as emanations of his universal form. So he asked Krishna to show me a form that is easier to see, to show me a form that I can relate to, that I can actually see a smile, something that my little mind may rejoice in. And this is chapter on love. How Arjuna asked, what's better, to those who worship you in your unmanifest form, or those who worship you with form, such as this gentle form, this appearance that I see here now with a smile. For this, I can remember this image in my heart. Or is it better to worship, to make offerings, just letting everything go and having practiced renunciation and samkhya and discern the real from unreal? I can just rest in the unmanifest. What is superior, and what is the way of love? And know that what was explained by Krishna, or the vision that was seen, was the vision that everything arises, even the forms of the goddess, which are the energetic manifestations of Shakti, wisdom, even beauty, truth, forbearance, the qualities of femininity, constancy, purity, chastity, modesty. Every beautiful thing that you could ever see are all emanations of the divine. And this divine love, is easier people who don't have the discernment yet to actually grasp the unmanifest. So an image is given, some kind of picture. I'm not sure if I have a picture, mostly are all manifest, but some kind of image, even an image of like the Buddha you would see, or says symbol there, you would have an image in a way that you would relate to the unmanifest through the form. And this is unlimited as well, because it opens up the door for the bhaktis, the devotees. And the bhaktis have opened up the doorway of the heart, this pathway of the realm. And the Hanuman bhaktis, is that you see Hanuman, and when he opens up his heart, he opens up his chest, he's symbolizing that, the pathway of devotion through honoring the divine form of the unmanifest through Ram. If you're familiar with the story of Ramayana, to rescue Sita, who is trapped by the ego. So he has to travel the pathway to cross the ocean and take that leap, and it was through love that bridge was made. Through love. So some people, they worship through the form of the Devi. They see beautiful Durga on top of the lion, and symbolizing the conquering of the ego and the slaying of the demon Mahishasur. Some you may worship through even maybe in the symbol of Ram, and he saves Sita. He saves the goddess from the muck and the mire, being trapped and enslaved by ego. Maybe See, applying that universally, it may even be through the image of a Christ, who that one sees God in human form. And that the ways of the form that are outlined are unlimited and immeasurable. That there's no wrong way to worship, but there is a way to worship with ignorance. For I was said that you worship the gods, you go to the gods, and you reap the fruit and the reward of finite results. But superior to even the form is one who can see the unmanifest. They've recognized the unmanifest, the imperishable Brahman. And that is the object of knowledge itself. Worshipping through the form leads to this recognition of the unmanifest, that even the form, when it's dissolved, and dissolved within you, in the center of your heart, is that recognition of the imperishable. So, there's not higher and lower here. Even Arjuna says it's easier for me to worship you through the form. And the advice that Krishna gives is, you act through the form. Remember that you can be a karmic yogi, and you can surrender the attachment and the results. But he's showing a way here of love. So love is today's chapter, the way of divine love. Arjuna, he says to Krishna, those devotees, the ones who are ever steadfast and concentrated on you. So they worship you after this fashion, after that fashion, this way, this ritual, that ritual, and others who worship the unmanifest and the imperishable. Which of these actually has greater knowledge? Which one is superior? The one who worships the manifest or the unmanifest? And Krishna is like those who fix their mind on me, and whoever steadfast and endowed with supreme faith worship me, them do I hold to be perfect in yoga. So the me that's being referred to, the qualities of I, me, and mine are aspects of nature. So he's saying me is attributable to the form. So I would say those who fix their minds on the form and endowed with supreme faith, they can have perfect recognition, perfect yoga here. A perfect devotee is one who has surrendered their results by offering selfless service unto me, by being ever steadfast, endowed with faith in that practice of service, seeing the other as inseparable from the Lord. And they perfect through yoga. But the realization is the same, whether one worships through the form or the formless. And I think this is the same analogy that can be made through Christ, honestly. You see basically God in human form. It's the same thing as Krishna. There's no difference there. If I'm standing for one, I'm standing for both. It's the same love. And so those who have completely controlled their senses and are of even mind under all conditions, thus they worship the imperishable, the ineffable, the unmanifest, the omnipresent, the incomprehensible, the immutable, the unchanging, the eternal. They, devoted to the welfare of all beings, attain me alone and none else. So, this is the same. You can reach both through the manifest or the unmanifest. And this is so that majority of beings, they want to take the easy road. And so it's challenging. You don't have the science to discern or the discriminative faculties of mind to recognize this, the self from non-self, the soul from non-soul. It's challenging. Krishna continues, the task of those whose minds are set on the unmanifest is more difficult. But for the ideal of the unmanifest is hard to attain for those who are embodied. He's reconfirming this, that it's more challenging to have a steadiness of mind on that which you cannot grasp. As if it's incomprehensible and changing and it's beyond thought. Thoughts can't reach it, wind can't touch it, water can't wet it, fire can't burn it. Beyond even ego. And it's beyond even saying Prakriti and Purusha. So this unmanifest, it really can only be told through parable and story in ways they can relate to. So for those listening, this is the benefit of trying to tell things in story form. And for me, like, the lines kind of blurred here, what's a story and what's actually true, because it's there's such faith and devotion in the words of Vasudeva. It's I take words that Vasudeva says and the understanding that comes from my heart as truth, because it doesn't come from anywhere else but from the unmanifest. Truth to me is devotion. And he continues that. So that some who worship through the form, they attain grace. And it's through grace that wisdom is delivered unto you. And those who consecrate all their actions to me in the form, regarding me as the supreme goal, and who worship me, meditating on me, single-pointed on me, with concentration to them whose minds are thus absorbed in me. Me is referring to the form. Verily, I become ere long, O Partha, the Savior, from the death-fraught ocean of the world. So, through the grace that's offered through the form. Now, this could be through the form of Krishna. This could be through the form of Ram. It could be through the form of the Christ, form of the Devi, the form of the Shakti, the form of Shiva that one understands. It's through that unswerving devotion, that commitment that one has to the form that the grace is offered. And as I said, you go to the gods, and etc. You'll reap the fruit of those results. So therefore, Krishna says to fix your mind single-pointedly. Fix it on me alone. This is his advice to Arjuna, his dear friend. He's not here to give another symbol. He's not here to give another form to focus on. He's already shown his unmanifest form. That was a little too much to bear, so he asked for a form that I can understand, a form that's graceful and that has a smile. This is the form of Krishna that is seen. And Krishna says to focus on me alone. Rest your thought on me alone. And in me alone you will live hereafter. Of this there is no doubt. Of me, the unmanifest, you'll come. Grace shall be offered. But for those who cannot follow that path, he gives a recommendation. He says, if you are unable to fix your mind steadily on me, O Dhananjaya, which means those who can shoot equally from left to right, then seek to reach me by the yoga of constant practice. This is steadiness and devotion. That through that unswerving you bring your mind back to that goal and bringing your mind back to the breath. Through that steadiness of constant practice, grace is offered. If you're incapable of constant practice, then devote yourself to service, selfless service on my behalf. In doing this, you purify yourself, and grace is attained. For even by rendering service, you will attain perfection. Well, remember that you can worship through form, worship through the formless. By offering service to the form, one can still purify it, because the obstacle here is the ego that refuses to actually bow in humility. Like the humility that was acquired by Arjuna to actually receive the grace to see, envision the unmanifest form. Recall Arjuna that he prostrated again and again. From all sides I prostrate, from back, from below, from all sides I bow down unto you. Sorry for speaking to you in jest. Sorry for all the jokes I had to say. And real humility here, and humbleness in receiving this grace. And if you are unable to do even this, unable to act in selfless service, then be self-controlled. Or at least if you're under self-control, you can surrender the fruit of all actions. And then by doing that, you take refuge in me. And taking refuge in the unmanifest as well, by establishing self-control. The importance of the steadiness of mind. And the yogic discipline, even of the pratyahara that was explained, of like a tortoise drawing in its limbs and it rests contentedly in the city of 9 gates. That self-control is yoga. As outlined in previous chapters, yoga is the equanimity of the mind. So, to act, non-selfish actions, selfless service. But better, better than practice is one who's actually recognized knowledge, and knowledge is recognition of the self. Knowledge of the highest self, that is the goal, and that is the object of knowledge. And meditation is better than knowledge. Meditation is steadiness of one's mind, stabilizing in that recognition through constant practice. Renunciation of the fruit of action is better than meditation. This is the surrendering of the selfless service, and the peace follows such renunciation that happens through self-control. So these are 2 methods that are taught, the form and the formless. And even says there's steps here. You could, step 1 is through knowledge. You can recognize the unmanifest. Step 2, constant, the practice of meditation. Step 3 is the renunciation of the fruits, which happen through action. And 4 is the self-control through renunciation. Renunciation is the fruit of all actions that culminates in self-control. So this worship is many-fold and opens the door, the pathway to love. So it continues that this devotee, he never hates any being, and he is friendly, compassionate to all, who is free from the feelings of I and mine, even-minded in pain and pleasure, who is forbearing. He's ever content, he's steady in his contemplation, who is self-controlled, possessed of firm conviction, and who has consecrated his mind and understanding to me. Dear to me is the one who is thus devoted to me. He sees that to the Lord, the mind, the understanding, the ego, the intellect, the 5 senses, surrenders it all to the unmanifest as a form of worship, as an offering. I humbly offer this to thee. And know that since one's real self is beyond the false identification of an ego, one is purified, attains grace, steadiness of mind, and reaches the highest goal, love is attained, like the giving of a sincere gift as a lover to a lover to a beloved, like a father to a son, friend to a friend. This offering leads the soul to peace and brings peace to all beings. But now the world opens up to you. He by whom the world is no longer afflicted, and whom the world cannot afflict. He is free from both joy and anger, fear and anxiety. He is dear to me. So, the one who practices such is a friend to the world, and as such, the unmanifest is a friend to the manifest. This devotee is free from dependence. He's pure, prompt, unconcerned, and untroubled, who has renounced all undertakings. Dear to me is the man who is thus devoted to me. All actions are undertaken on behalf of selfless service and worship. One is an instrument for the good, acts from love, a love for others. As that same self resides within all beings, one acts with love for others, worshipping through the form. He is alike to foe and friend, beyond even the names of foes and friends, unaltered in dishonor and honor, no longer concerned if he's liked or disliked. He's gone beyond these pairs of opposites, for he's seen the self and all, and anything that arises now purifies this devotee, as he knows the self beyond thought, beyond reputation. He is the same in cold and pain, pleasure and pain. Same in cold and heat and pleasure and pain. And he's free from attachment. He's unchanged by praise and blame. It does not affect him. He's silent, content with whatever he has. Homeless in the sense that he's not attached to any one direction, and is firm of mind. He's full of devotion, and that man is dear to me. That man has actually come home, taken his true home. Remember that the unmanifest is another name for the abode, for the home. For this is one's true nature, the true self. All these walls, everything else will come and go. But the self is permanent, unchanging, eternal, immutable, everlasting. So exceedingly dear is this renunciate, for they regard me as the supreme goal, that which is to be attained, and they're endowed with faith and devotion. They follow this immortal Dharma. So, those who worship through form, those who worship through the formless, they're both equal. And through that grace, one reaches this goal. Peace is attained, and that it's said it's possible, that one can do it. I'll leave it at that. Simple discussion. See you in chapter 13. Matter and spirit, how to discern.